online donation using your Visa or MasterCard. Please contact us today. God love you.
We need Catholic radio. We are bound by our baptism to spread the good word.
From Bristol to Browns Mills,
Shrewsbury to Solbury, Silverdale to Seagirt,
Southampton to Seaside Heights.
from Lawrenceville to Leonardo, proclaiming the joy of the gospel on Domestic Church Catholic Radio. All righty, welcome back on this, well, what do you want to call it? What kind of day is this July 13th, 2021? I said, it is like living in New Orleans, isn't it? You know, the humidity, the rain, sticky. I don't know. What happened to those nice, dry, mid-80 July days? You know, you can just kind of bask out in the sunshine. We haven't had one of those days in a long. I think the closest we came, right, was maybe the 5th of July, the observed holiday. I don't know. Got to keep praying for some nice July weather, though. This weather. Oof. Cheryl and I were saying we feel bad. Anybody who rented a beach house down the Jersey Shore these past few weeks. Oof. Anyway, I got YouTube working. We're back on YouTube. I don't know. To get done around this, but you know, we just offer it up. As the good sisters used to say, just offer it up. All our little troubles and woes, we take them to heart. We work through them, and we just offer them up. You know what I do here after the program at 5:00, before I do my evening prayer and leave? Because I got another offer to do a gig. I got a gig up in Dingman's Falls, Pennsylvania, up in the Poconos area, on August 14th, I think it is, Saturday evening. An outside venue. They're going to have about 1,000 people there. So I'm going to go do my Sinatra thing. So I set up my karaoke here in the studio after the show's over. Before I do my evening prayer, before I leave for the day, I get in a couple of maybe 45 minutes of singing. It's always been a release for me. It's always been a way to just kind of escape, just to sing, just to sing. So that's what I'm doing. Anybody wants to? They told me that because I did this last year up there. A good friend of mine from high school, Dennis Lee, who was 2 years ahead of me at St. Peter's High School in New Brunswick. He lives up there now, and he's really into theater. And he's establishing a small theater company up there, in a little theater in one of the parks, I guess, through the township where he lives. And last year, as he was beginning, I said, well, if you need to have any kind of fundraiser, I'll come up and do an evening of Sinatra, an awareness type of thing. You can get. So we had about 250 people there last year, but very limited by COVID. They were all sitting in these, chalk circles on the lawn. This year, all that's, doesn't apply anymore. So he said we could probably get about 1,000 people in this field where the stage is going to be. So I know last year it was hot. It was a hot, muggy August night. I'm in a tuxedo outside, swallowing moths as I sing. But I look forward to it. It's going to be a good time. I'll keep you posted, though, because they said last year people actually came up. They had people up there from Princeton, the Princeton area, and people from this part of and it's it's up in the Poconos area. It's about 2 hours from here, so that was nice. Okay, so that's what my avocation is. And I'll come do Sinatra at one of your events if you want. If you're having a little event, just a different type of fun parish activity, like I did a few years ago over at St. John's in Allentown. That was a fun night, and my daughter Angela sang with me. Remember that? Came down from New York. We had a great time. We have to be joyful, real Catholics. That's the thing. We have to enjoy life. And I saw a meme today. It showed a very young little girl, maybe about 3 years old, face to face, nose to nose with an elderly woman probably close to 90. And the caption was, "It seems like a long time, but the years pass very fast. Live it well and love." Because you look back and you say, my goodness, God gives us all this time here on this earth to do good and to love. And that doing good, doesn't always mean that we're walking around with our hands folded and the halos around our heads. It could just mean we're enjoying the life that God gives us in a good way, a good, wholesome, healthy way. And we can have fun. God wants us to enjoy life. and have a joyful heart. That's a great fruit of the Spirit, to be a joyful person. And that joy is brought to us through using the gifts that we have. And if your gift is gardening and you go out to do some gardening, and you enjoy that, that's a great gift, and you're using it. It was great, a great quote. I know I've shared it with you before, and I don't think it's attributed to Red Skelton, the old comedian, but I heard him say it one time when it was a special on PBS on comedians. And those of you who are younger than me wouldn't even know who Skelton is, but he was a famous movie actor, comedian in the movies, and had his own television program back in the 50s. But he was a Catholic, a good Catholic, I understand. And he said, the talents that we have are God's gift to us. When we use those talents, it's our gift back to God. So, all right, let's go back to Dies Domini on keeping holy the Lord's Day. And this is by John Paul II from 1998, an apostolic letter. And this is a section that he calls Other Moments of the Christian Sunday. We've just gone through, if you've been with us for the past few weeks, Holy Father has been going through the holy sacrifice of the Mass and, of course, how important, primarily important that is on a Sunday. That's it, Mass. But he said there are other moments of a Christian Sunday. And he said sharing the Eucharist is the heart of Sunday. But the duty to keep Sunday holy cannot be reduced to this. In fact, the Lord's Day is lived well if it is marked from beginning to end by grateful and active remembrance of God's saving work. So throughout the day, with a grateful heart and an active remembrance of what makes Sunday a special day, God's saving work on that day. John Paul writes, this commits each of Christ's disciples to shape the other moments of the day, those outside the liturgical context. And he said, family life, social relationships, moments of relaxation, in such a way that the peace and joy of the risen Lord will emerge in the ordinary events of life. And so are we spending our Sundays that way? We think back now, Cheryl and I were talking about it this morning or the other day, saying, when this whole pandemic thing began, it's been about a year and a half, right, that we've been having to deal with this. But the first year of the pandemic, the lockdowns, the shut-ins, the church closures, no mass except on television and virtually, being locked in. One of the things that I kind of took up personally was I began to look into cooking. I enjoyed, making meals and especially on Sundays. Cheryl, in her work that God has assigned her for well over 30 years now, has been, as a principal organist and director of music and liturgy in parishes. She was over here in Bucks County for about 20 years, a little over 20 years, and now she's been up at St. Magdalene's up in Flemington in Hunterdon County for about 6 years. And, of course, so her Sundays are always occupied. She's always, Saturday vigil and Sunday Mass. That's her job. So what I did during the pandemic, because once there was about a 5-week period, I think, where she wasn't working at all, but then Father called her back in, and even though there were no people attending Mass because of the streaming Masses, he wanted music. So she would go on Sundays back to her old Sunday schedule. But anyway, so I would spend then Sundays, just cooking something different. I found different recipes, a lot of great stuff on YouTube. I started making a lot of Italian food and really enjoyed it. And I still look forward to the day when things get back to normal. They're not quite there yet in our family, but when they do, that, my children and grandchildren will come over maybe once a month on Sundays, and we can make a big festa, a big meal for them, and just enjoy Sunday that way. We've talked about this, how we all have great memories of Sundays in our families and our extended family through grandparents and aunts and uncles, and the visiting that was done and the company that was kept on those days, and how important that is. And Holy Father John Paul is saying that here where he said that, you need to make this from beginning to end on Sunday, grateful and active remembrance of God's saving work, and committed as Christ's disciples to shape other moments of the day outside of liturgy, and that being family life, strengthening the family life and the coming together, that basic cell of the culture of society, and reinforce that. Social relationships, even moments of relaxation. Summertime, except for this summer, you have nice summer days where you can go sit out in the backyard, or go down the shore, or spend time at the lake or in the mountains and just enjoy God's creation and relax. You're away from work. You're away from all the troubles, right? Holy Father said, do that. He said, in such a way that the peace and joy of the risen Lord emerges through even that, the ordinary events of our lives. For example, Holy Father John Paul writes, the relaxed gathering of parents and children can be an opportunity not only to listen to one another, but also to share a few formative and more reflective moments. Oh, well, I think most of us remember these times, especially the days when there were no electronics involved, right? I used to tell my kids, and they would laugh at me on a summer day, when, again, we haven't had many of these nice summer days, but you probably remember this if you remember. My goodness, on a July weekday, no school, somebody in the neighborhood or a few people maybe had a pool. So you and your friends would gather there and spend the day in the pool. Or like we used to do when I was a kid, we'd go out and get together with some of our other friends and get up a pickup game, and we'd play baseball in the street until, the neighbors started complaining because we were hitting their house with the ball and we had to go to the park. Or I remember vividly just, 4 or 5 of us sitting under a tree just talking. I mean, we're talking like, 10, 11, 12-year-olds sitting under a tree just talking. We didn't have any electronics. Looking at the back of baseball cards, we'd play this little game. The back of the baseball cards had the stats, right, of the baseball player. And we'd get the card and we'd quiz each other. We'd give the initials of the player, the team they played on, and some of the stats. We'd have to guess who the player was. That's how we amused ourselves. Or sometimes we'd just sit on the curb. That was how we and talked. And that extended into even our Sundays. There wasn't a lot of distraction. You had to make time with and for each other. And especially as parents and children. I remember my father saying, let's go for a drive. We all got in the car. And we would just go for a drive in the countryside. I remember taking our kids, with Cheryl and I on a Sunday once you got back from church, and we'd get in the car, and go to the park and bring a kite, or something, bring a picnic blanket, and just spend time together. Holy Father said that's an important part, and that he said that even in doing that great peace and joy there emerges, and it reminds us of why the day is special, the risen Lord. He goes on to say, even in lay life, when possible, why not make provision for special times of prayer, especially in the solemn celebration of Vespers, for example, or moments of catechesis, which on the eve of Sunday or on Sunday afternoon might prepare for or complete the gift of the Eucharist in people's hearts. So taking that time, even after Mass, for catechesis, just make it a time of prayer. And he says this rather traditional way of keeping Sunday holy has perhaps become more difficult for many people, but the Church shows her faith in the strength of the risen Lord and the power of the Holy Spirit by making it known that today, more than ever, she is unwilling to settle for minimalism and mediocrity at the level of faith. She wants to help Christians to do what is most correct and pleasing to the Lord. And despite the difficulties, there are positive and encouraging signs. John Paul wrote, again, this is 1998, in many parts of the Church, a new need for prayer in its many forms is being felt, and this is a gift of the Holy Spirit. There is also a recovery of ancient religious practices such as pilgrimages, and often the faithful take advantage of Sunday rest to visit a shrine, where the whole family perhaps can then spend time in a more intense experience of faith. These are moments of grace which must be fostered through evangelization and guided by general pastoral wisdom. So we're very blessed in our part of the country because here we have a lot of shrines that we can visit along, in our area, right? My goodness, they're all over the place. You can go in Philadelphia and see the shrine of Saint John Newman. You can also go to the Cathedral of Saints Peter and Paul in Center City, Philadelphia, where Saint Catherine Drexel is entombed. You can visit the shrine of Our Lady of Czestochowa up in Doylestown, a beautiful shrine up there, and all the shrine of the Miraculous Medal over in Philadelphia, and many, many others here, even in New Jersey. There are things. So Holy Father, and on nice days, if you can find them, but even if it's not a nice day, you can go inside the shrine, a building, the Blue Army Shrine up in Washington, New Jersey. You can make a day trip. So all these, and Holy Father, these are moments of grace which must be fostered. And with our children, to teach them our faith. This is who we are. This is our culture. And, getting the time, I guess that's what most people say they don't have a lot of these days. When all these gizmos and gadgets and technology that we've developed over the past generation that were supposed to give us more time, they take up our time. Did you ever get, and I have the iPhone, one of the iPhones, and every Sunday or Saturday, it'll tell me how much screen time I had over the past 7 days on that device. And it's scary. It really is pretty frightening. The amount of time that we can spend on these devices looking down onto this little device. Unfortunately, we become so dependent upon it for information. It's very easy now to just, look things up. You used to have to go to the library, right? If you wanted to find out information about something or an event or a person or dates or history or biographies, you had to go to a library and take a book out and read. Now all you have to do is Google it, and you have it in an instant. So we spend a lot of time doing some of that. We check the weather, we check the news, we communicate with other people, either by phone or by text. All these ways we have it, but it's unfortunate that we become so dependent on that. That we almost it becomes an habitual addiction. I'm guilty. I'm guilty. Many times guilty of that. Where you're more concerned about what's, who's communicating with me, what are my emails about, what's the text about, and you really need to just put that away. But I don't know if that's ever going to change. But we've become so technological in our society these days, and through all this technology, it's very easy to have our personal freedoms abused. People can listen, people can watch, people know your habits, what you're buying, where you are. We were with friends a while back, and this individual said that she was taking herself off the grid. She's going to take herself off the grid. We were having dinner, and she was treating. And she says, I'm off the grid. I'm off the grid. And she handed the server her credit card to pay for the meal. And I said, you just gave that person your credit card. They know exactly where you are now. They know exactly what you bought, what you ate. You're not off the grid. We're so used to doing that. They can track us. Big Brother is always watching. And unfortunately, that becomes and has become the norm. When if you stop to think about it, if we could put that stuff away. When my kids were growing up, there were these things that came out, and I finally had to go lock them up. Maybe some of your kids had them too, these little things called Tamagotchis. And there was this little toy device, and it would beep a certain way, and if it beeped a certain way, it was hungry, and you had to do a certain thing to quell its hunger, or if it beeped another way, it was tired, you had to put it to bed, and they were becoming so attached to these things. I said, that's it. Give me those things. I can't stand them because they would beep, and they'd have to get up and go, oh, pay attention to this little device. That was almost 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So it infiltrated the home, and we have to get away from that. And that's what Holy Father was saying back in 1998. So we're talking 23 years ago. Then even saying how we've allowed these things to really have an adverse effect on family life. We have to take the time, especially on Sunday. Take Sunday, make it our own again. Make it what it is. Make it what it is meant to be, what the Lord meant when he said, keep holy this day. On that day that Jesus Christ rose from the dead, the Son of God rose from the dead, who is our salvation. It's on Sunday that we remember that every Sunday. Remember, every Sunday is a little Easter. We remember that salvific act when our Lord rose from the dead and opened up the kingdom to us. But now, unfortunately, we've allowed it to become just an extended Saturday. People are not going to Mass. People are not observing it as a holy day. Taking the time. And you'll see when we go through more of this, and I won't go into the next section because I don't want to start that. We have about a minute left. But you'll see as we go through this during these days, and I'll do it again tomorrow. We'll do it Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That Holy Father will then even go, as he just started, to talk about beyond the Sunday liturgy, making Sunday special. And here are some things you can do, both as individuals, as family, and as parishes. What are our parishes doing to continue the observance of the Holy Day after Mass? I remember one time I had a good priest friend many, many years ago who told me that Sunday was the loneliest day of his week. And I said, Father, you're saying, 3 Masses, you see all the people, you're standing outside, you're greeting them. He said, yeah, but then they all go. Then I know they're off having dinner, they're off visiting family, and I'm just here in the rectory by myself. And I think that was very, very sad. So maybe if we start doing things in our parish life and involve the pastors and the assistants and the deacons and the families and just build that up again the way it used to be. All right, not take a break. We'll take a break till tomorrow. I'll be back again, God willing, at 4 o'clock tomorrow. So I do hope and pray, my friends, you have a great rest of your day. Stay cool, stay dry, and thanks for being a part of my day. My name is Jim Manfredonia. God bless you, and God love you.
In me.